Picture this, April 2025, Cupertino, California, the heart of Silicon Valley, where the world's most advanced technology companies create the future. But inside the local Whole Foods, a very ancient enemy has taken control. Not hackers, not corporate competitors, but rats. And not just a few rats, we're talking about an infestation so severe that the health inspectors found rodent droppings in food preparation areas, live cockroaches throwing a party in the bakery, snap traps behind equipment like some kind of twisted art installation, and, this is my personal favorite, they actually captured, and I quote, an adult female roof rat in the deli section. I mean, imagine that being that rat. You've made it. You're living in the deli at Whole Foods. That's like the rodent equivalent of a penthouse apartment, living it up on upscale and expensive foods all day. It's like the worst sequel to Ratatouille you could imagine. Premium cheeses, artisanal breads, probably discussing the terroir of different olive oils with your rat friends. But here's where the story gets really interesting and slightly terrifying for the humans involved. The store stayed closed for 5 months. 5. In that time, you could have trained the rats to use tiny cash registers and ring up the customers, but instead, they were battling an enemy that had something even more powerful on its side. California's new environmental regulations. You see, the state had recently restricted the use of anticoagulant rodenticides, those super effective rat poisons that have been the go-to solution for decades. Why? Because it turns out when you poison a rat, you're starting a deadly chain reaction. Hawks, owls, foxes, even people's pets. They eat the poisoned rats and get a lethal dose themselves. The county's environmental health director, Dr. Marilyn Underwood, said something that should send chills down every food retailer's spine. Probably if they were allowed to use rodenticides, maybe Whole Foods would have opened sooner. Think about that. One of the wealthiest companies in one of the wealthiest regions of the world, brought to its knees by rodents because we've taken away our most effective weapons. Welcome to Apprentice.io's Industry Insights. I'm Frank Maggiore, and today we're diving into the fascinating world where biotechnology meets pest control, where viruses become vaccines, where artificial intelligence designs new molecules, and where, believe it or not, we're putting rats on birth control. Yes, you heard that right, birth control for rats. And before you start imagining tiny pharmacies with even tinier privacy screens, let me tell you, this is some serious science with world-changing implications. We're talking about a problem that affects every single human on the planet. Rats and mice destroy enough food to feed 200 million people every year. In New York City alone, there are an estimated 3 million rats. That's about 1 rat for every 3 humans. Though, if you've ever waited for the subway at 2 a.m., you might think that ratio is reversed. These aren't just nuisances, they're disease vectors, carrying everything from actual plague. Yes, the Black Death is still around, to hantavirus, to leptospirosis, rat bite fever, and salmonellosis. And here's the kicker, we've been fighting this war the same way for generations. Poison them, trap them, repeat. It's like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket while the tide keeps coming in. Every rat you kill can be replaced by a dozen more within months. A single pair of rats can theoretically produce 15,000 descendants in a single year. That's not a population, that's an exponential explosion with whiskers. But what if I told you that we're on the verge of a revolution with a potentially permanent solution? What if instead of playing an endless game of whack-a-mole, or in this case, whack-a-rat, what if we could fundamentally alter the playing field? What if we could use the same cutting-edge biotechnology that gave us COVID vaccines, CRISPR gene editing, and targeted cancer therapies to finally, humanely, and permanently solve our rodent problem? Today, we're exploring technologies that sound like science fiction, but are becoming science fact. Viruses engineered to spread infertility through rat populations like a contagious form of contraception. AI systems designing entirely new classes of pesticides at the molecular level, and bacterial infections that could turn entire populations male, leading to demographic collapse. We're talking about smart traps that text you when they catch something, birth control pellets that taste so good, rats choose them over food, and monitoring systems that predict infestations before they happen. This isn't just about killing pests anymore, it's about rewriting the rules of engagement in humanity's oldest war. And the best part? Some of these technologies are already being deployed. Right now, as we speak, rats in Manhattan are unknowingly participating in the world's largest rodent contraception program. So buckle up, because we're about to journey into a world where pest control meets precision medicine, where your local exterminator might need a degree in molecular biology, and where the future of our cities, our food supply, and our health might just depend on making rats stop making more baby rats. Let's talk about why we're in this mess in the first place. For decades, we had a simple solution to rodent problems: poison. Specifically, anticoagulant rodenticides. Blood thinners so powerful that they cause internal bleeding and death within days. They were extremely effective if your definition of effective includes widespread ecological destruction. Here's how the traditional system worked. You put out the poison bait, the rat eats the poison, the rat dies. Simple, right? Except that poison rat becomes a toxic time bomb. It doesn't die immediately. It wanders around for days, becoming slower, easier prey. A perfect meal for a hawk, owl, fox, coyote, or your neighbor's cat. Those predators then get a concentrated dose of the same poison. It bioaccumulates up the food chain until you have mass die-offs of exactly the animals that naturally control rodent populations. It's like burning down your house to kill a spider, then wondering why you have a spider problem in the ruins. The tragedy of Flacco the owl really drove this home. Here was this majestic Eurasian eagle owl who had escaped from the Central Park Zoo, become a beloved New York City celebrity, basically the avian equivalent of a reality TV star, only to die after crashing into a building with rat poison in his system. Flacco's death became a rallying cry. We're literally poisoning the solutions to our problems. California's response was to ban or severely restrict these second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides. Great for wildlife, but it created the Whole Foods paradox. We've removed the nuclear option from pest control's arsenal, just as urban rat populations are exploding. Climate change means warmer winters and longer breeding seasons. Urban expansion creates perfect rat habitats. Food waste in cities has increased 50% over the last 2 decades. We've basically created a rat paradise, then taken away our most effective eviction notice. And let's talk about the rebound effect, the dirty secret of lethal pest control. You can kill 90% of a rat population, pat yourself on the back, and within 3 months, you're back to square one. Why? Because rats are basically mammals' answer to bacteria when it comes to reproduction. A female rat reaches sexual maturity at 8 to 12 weeks, has a gestation period of just 21 days, can have 7 litters a year with 8 to 12 pups each litter. And here's the really unfair part. She can get pregnant again within 48 hours after giving birth. It's like fighting fire with gasoline-soaked water. Every rat you remove creates an ecological vacuum that gets filled faster than you can say rodenticide. More resources for the survivors mean bigger litters, better survival rates, and a population boom that would make demographers weep. In New York City, they've been poisoning rats since before the Civil War. And what do they have to show for it? 3 million rats and counting. The diseases these creatures carry aren't medieval history. They're modern threats. Leptospirosis cases in New York have tripled in the last decade. It's a bacterial infection spread through rat urine that can cause kidney failure, liver failure, and even death. Imagine that every puddle in the city could be a biological weapon. Hantavirus, spread through dried rat droppings that become airborne, has a 38% mortality rate. Solvirus, another hantavirus variant found in 2017 in rats across multiple U.S. cities. Rat bite fever, despite its B-movie name, is a serious bacterial infection that can cause heart inflammation, brain abscesses, and death if left untreated. The economic impact is staggering. The global rodent control market is worth $6.48 billion in 2025 and is projected to hit $8.44 billion by 2030. That's billion with a B. In the US alone, rats cause $19 billion in damage annually. That's lost food, damaged infrastructure, health costs, and lost productivity. Every year, rats contaminate enough food to feed more than 200 million people, while 1 billion people go hungry. It's a moral obscenity enabled by our inability to control these populations effectively. The regulatory landscape has become a three-way cage match between public health officials who want rats gone yesterday, environmental agencies protecting wildlife from secondary poisonings, and businesses drowning in compliance costs and pest problems. In California, getting an emergency waiver to use restrictive rodenticides requires navigating bureaucracy that makes the DMV look efficient. The Whole Foods in Cupertino requested a waiver. It was denied. 5 months of closure later, they finally reopened after a brutal long slog, a pest control nightmare, and millions of dollars lost. Meanwhile, cities are trying everything. New York has a rat czar. Yes, the actual job title is officially Director of Rodent Mitigation, but rat czar has a better ring to it. They've tried dry ice to suffocate rats in their burrows, drowning them in burrows with water, and even rat birth control, which we'll get to. San Francisco has tested fertility control, pheromone disruption, and habitat modification. Chicago is experimenting with feral cats, though that one might be just trading one problem for another. But here's the thing, we're fighting a 20th century war with 19th century weapons, while rats are evolving 21st century resistance. Some rat populations have developed genetic resistance to anticoagulants. They can eat warfarin like candy. Others have learned to avoid traditional traps and baits through cultural transmission. Yes, rats teach their young what's dangerous. We need a fundamental paradigm shift, and that's exactly what biotechnology promises to deliver. Now we get to the really cool stuff, the science that sounds like straight out of a science fiction movie, but it's actually happening in laboratories right now. Let's start with my favorite, viral vectored immunocontraception, or VVIC. Try saying that 5 times fast after a few beers. The concept is elegant. We take a virus that naturally infects rodents, in this case, mouse cytomegalovirus, or MCMV, and genetically engineer it to carry a special payload. But instead of making the rodent sick, the virus makes them infertile. How? By tricking their immune system into attacking their own reproductive cells. It's like convincing the body security system that the reproductive organs are intruders. The immune system, being very good at its job, permanently shuts down reproduction. The specific target is something called Zona pellucida 3, or ZP3, a protein that surrounds the egg. When the engineered virus infects a female mouse, it causes her immune system to produce antibodies against ZP3. The antibodies coat every egg she produces, making them impenetrable to sperm. It's like putting each egg into a biological fortress that no sperm can breach. The beauty is that the mouse is perfectly healthy otherwise. She just can't have babies. Laboratory results have been stunning. A single inoculation with MCMV expressing ZP3 can cause permanent infertility in 100% of treated female mice. And here's where it gets really interesting. The virus can potentially spread through the population. Infected mice shed the virus, potentially infecting others through close contact, grooming, and other social behaviors. Imagine a contraceptive that spreads like flu through a rat population. But wait, there's more. Scientists are also working on making males infertile by targeting proteins essential for sperm production. That same viral vector approach can shut down male fertility as well. Some researchers have even suggested using viruses that affect sex ratios. Imagine if every rat was born male. Within just a few generations, the entire population would crash. The Australians at Cicero have been leading this research for decades, originally trying to control mouse plagues that devastate their agricultural regions. They've tested both Ectromelia virus and MCMV as vectors, with MCMV showing the most promise because it's already endemic to wild mouse populations and doesn't cause severe disease. Now, let's talk about chemical contraceptives, the approach actually being deployed in New York City right now. The star of the show is Pest, developed by SenseTech. It contains 2 active ingredients, 4-vinylcyclohexene dipoxide, or VCD, and triptolide. VCD destroys the primordial follicles in female ovaries, basically depleting the egg reserve until there's nothing left. Triptolide, derived from the thunder god vine, yes, that's its real name, impairs sperm production in males and disrupts estrous cycles in females. The clever bit is that these chemicals metabolize within 15 minutes of consumption. Unlike traditional rodenticides that persist in the body and environment for weeks, these contraceptives break down quickly, minimizing risk to predators and scavengers. Rats need to consume the bait regularly for about 70 days to become infertile. But once they are, the effects last for months. The delivery system is crucial. These contraceptives are formulated as liquid baits in tamper-resistant stations, flavored to be irresistible to rats. Think of it as a rodent equivalent of a milkshake that makes you sterile. The new formulations being deployed in New York City are pellets designed to be even more appealing than garbage. They're sweet, fatty, salty, basically everything a rat craves. RNA interference, or RNAi, represents another frontier. This technology uses small RNA molecules to silence specific genes. Imagine being able to turn off the genes responsible for reproduction, or for detecting certain odors that attract rats to food sources, or even genes that confer pesticide resistance. It's like having a molecular switch that can disable specific functions in the pest. The challenge with RNAi is delivery. The RNA molecules are fragile and need to be protected until they reach their target. Scientists are developing specialized formulations. Think of them as molecular Trojan horses that can survive the rat's digestive system and deliver their genetic payload to the right cells. Some approaches use nanoparticles. Others use modified bacteria that colonize the gut and produce RNAi continuously. Microbiome warfare is perhaps the most sci-fi approach. Every rat carries trillions of bacteria in its gut that are essential for digestion, immunity, and even behavior. What if we can disrupt this microbiome? Researchers are developing probiotic baits that introduce engineered bacteria into the rat's gut. These bacteria could produce contraceptive compounds continuously, or make the rat unable to digest certain foods, or even change its behavior to make it less successful at reproduction. One fascinating approach involves bacteria that produce compounds affecting the rat's pheromone production. Rats rely heavily on pheromones for mating. Disrupt these chemical signals, and you've essentially made them invisible to potential mates. It's like giving them permanent romantic camouflage. The AI revolution in pesticide design is absolutely mind-blowing. Companies like Syngenta are partnering with AI firms to design entirely new molecules that have never existed before. The AI systems analyze millions of chemical structures, predict their biological activity, and design new compounds that are even more effective, more specific, and less toxic than anything we've created before. Pestigen, developed by researchers in China, uses reinforcement learning algorithms, the same type that beat humans at Go and chess, to design pesticides. The system can generate thousands of potential molecules, predict their effectiveness against specific pests, estimate their environmental impact, and even optimize for manufacturing cost. It's like having a million chemists working 24/7, except they never need coffee breaks. Let me paint you a picture of how these technologies fundamentally change the game. Traditional pest control is like playing whack-a-mole in an arcade where the moles reproduce faster than you can hit them, and every hammer strike might accidentally hit a cat or a bird. These new biotech approaches, they're like convincing the moles to stop making baby moles while leaving the puppies completely alone. The paradigm shift here is profound. We're moving from reactive extermination to proactive population management. Instead of waiting for rats to become a problem and then trying to kill them all, which, as we've thoroughly established over the last few hundred years, doesn't work. We're preventing the next generation from ever being born. It's the difference between bailing water from a sinking boat to actually fixing the leak. Species specificity is the holy grail here, and biotech delivers that in spades. MCMV only infects mice and rats. It can't infect humans, cats, dogs, or any other species. This laser-focused targeting means that we can control specific pest populations without the collateral damage that makes traditional pesticides so problematic. It's like having a smart bomb that only affects its intended target, except instead of destroying everything, it just makes them forget how to make babies. The humaneness factor has even gotten PETA on board. Think about that for a second. PETA, the organization that protests everything, from leather shoes to honey production, actually supports these approaches. Why? Because the animals don't suffer. A rat on birth control lives a normal rat life. It just doesn't produce offspring. No pain, no suffering, no slow death by internal bleeding. It's population control that would make Thanos jealous, except without all the dramatic finger snapping and turning to dust. If Thanos really wanted half the populations, he could have just gave everyone birth control, increased the standard of living, and enrolled everyone into a PhD programs. Problem solved. The integration potential with smart city infrastructure is where my inner tech nerd really gets excited. Imagine this, IoT sensors throughout the city, detecting rodent activity in real time. AI systems predicting population movements and growth patterns. automated bait stations that refill themselves and report consumption data, all integrated into a citywide dashboard that looks like something from a sci-fi movie. New York City is already moving in this direction. They're deploying smart sensors in sewers and subway systems that can detect rat movement patterns. These feed data to predictive models that can forecast where infestations will occur weeks before they become visible problems. It's like having a weather forecast, but for rats. Tomorrow will be partly cloudy with a 70% chance of rodents in the downtown district. The psychological impact on pest populations is fascinating and often overlooked. Rats are incredibly intelligent and social creatures. They learn from each other, teach their young about dangers, and can develop cultural aversions to certain baits or traps that persist for generations. But contraceptives don't trigger these avoidance behaviors because there's no immediate negative consequence. The rats don't associate the bait with danger because they feel fine. They just mysteriously stop having babies. This method finally breaks the evolutionary arms race to pest control. With lethal methods, you're constantly selecting for rats that avoid your traps, resist your poisons, or reproduce fast enough to outpace your killing rate. It's evolution and fast forward, and we're inadvertently breeding super rats. But with contraception, there's no selection pressure. The rats that take the bait remove themselves from the gene pool without trauma or learned avoidance. The economic game changer aspect is huge. Yes, contraceptives cost more upfront than traditional poisons. We're talking about $100 to $300 per bait station versus $20 to $50 for poison stations. But factor in the hidden cost of poison, liability for secondary poisoning, environmental cleanup, repeated treatments because populations rebound, lost business during infestations, and public health costs from rodent-borne diseases. Suddenly, that premium for contraceptives looked like a bargain. Factor in that you're not killing predators, pets, or endangered species, and that value proposition becomes overwhelming. The public acceptance angle is crucial and often underestimated. Nobody wants to live in a city that's poisoning its way to pest control. Parents worry about their kids, pet owners fear for their animals, and environmental groups mobilize against toxic chemicals. But birth control for rats? That's a story that ends up on a New York Post cover. But it works. It's humane. It's smart. It's progressive. Cities can brand themselves as innovative and compassionate rather than brutal and toxic. You could just imagine a city like San Francisco's marketing campaign for fertility control. We're not killing rats. We're preventing future rats from being born into a life of hardship. It sounds ridiculous, but it's the future of how we finally get a handle on managing pest populations. The technological convergence happening here is remarkable. We're combining synthetic biology, artificial intelligence, IoT sensors, big data analytics, and cloud computing to solve a problem that's plagued humanity since we started storing grain. It's not just interdisciplinary, it's transdisciplinary. Your pest control company of the future might have more in common with a biotech startup than a traditional exterminator. Now this is where my background in manufacturing execution systems gets me really excited. Creating these biotech pest control solutions isn't like mixing up a batch of rat poison in your garage. Though, please don't do that either. We're talking about complex biological manufacturing processes that require the same level of precision and control as producing pharmaceuticals. In fact, many of these products are pharmaceuticals, just for rats instead of for humans. Let's start with viral vector production. Growing viruses for VVIC requires sophisticated bioreactor systems, precise environmental controls, and real-time monitoring of countless parameters. Temperature variations of just a degree can affect viral yield. pH changes can denature proteins. Contamination with the wrong bacteria can ruin entire batches worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is where cloud-based manufacturing execution systems become absolutely critical. Imagine trying to produce MCMV carrying the ZP3 gene at commercial scale. You need to track everything: the cell line genetics, passage numbers, media composition, feeding schedules, harvest timing, purification steps, quality control results, and stability data. A modern MES system doesn't just record this data, it orchestrates the entire process. It's like having a digital conductor for a biological symphony. The fermentation process for producing chemical contraceptives like triptolide is equally complex. This compound comes from the thunder god vine, but you can't just grind up plants and call it a day. Commercial production uses engineered microorganisms that produce the compound through fermentation. The manufacturing execution system monitors dissolved oxygen, glucose consumption, metabolite production, and countless other parameters in real time. Here's where it gets really interesting: predictive analytics. Modern manufacturing execution systems with machine learning capabilities can predict batch failures before they happen. They analyze patterns from thousands of previous runs and identify subtle deviations that human operators would miss. Hey, the pH drift pattern in Bioreactor 3 matches the profile of batches that failed quality control 72 hours later. Better intervene now. That kind of early warning can save millions of dollars in lost product and delayed shipments. Quality control in this space is insane. We're not just checking for potency and purity, we're ensuring species specificity, environmental stability, and palatability. Every batch needs to be tested to ensure it won't affect non-target species, that it remains stable under various environmental conditions, and that rats will actually eat it. The manufacturing execution system coordinates all these tests, tracks the results, and ensures nothing ships without meeting every specification. The regulatory compliance aspect is where cloud-based systems really shine. The EPA requires detailed documentation of everything: raw material sources, production processes, quality control results, stability studies, and environmental impact assessments. A modern manufacturing execution system automatically generates these reports, maintains audit trails, and ensures compliance with 21 CFR Part 11 compliance for electronic records. It's like having a team of regulatory consultants built into your manufacturing system. Supply chain complexity for these products is mind-boggling. You're sourcing biological materials that come from specialized cell banks in Belgium, enzymes from Japan, and specialized equipment from Germany. The manufacturing execution system tracks all of this. It manages inventory and even predicts supply needs. During COVID, companies with robust manufacturing execution systems were able to quickly identify alternative suppliers and adjust production schedules when supply chains were disrupted. The scale-up challenges are particularly interesting, going from producing enough contraceptive for a laboratory trial with 100 rats to supplying New York City's program targeting millions of rats is not just about making bigger batches. You need to ensure consistency across batches, maintain biological activity during storage and transport, and optimize for cost without compromising efficacy. MES systems use statistical process control and multivariate analysis to identify critical process parameters and ensure they remain in control as you scale. Environmental monitoring integration becomes standard. These systems don't just track what's happening inside the bioreactor, they monitor the entire production environment. Temperature and humidity in storage areas, particulate counts in clean rooms, microbial contamination in water systems, it all feeds into the MES. This is especially critical for biological products that can be sensitive to environmental conditions. The real-time release testing capability of modern manufacturing execution systems is revolutionary. Instead of waiting days or weeks for quality control results, many tests can now be performed in line or at line with results immediately fed into the MES. This means products can be released faster, inventory costs are reduced, and any quality issues are caught immediately rather than after producing an entire batch. Cross-facility coordination is where cloud-based systems really prove their worth. A company might ferment the active ingredient in one facility, formulate it into bait in another, and package it in a third. Cloud-based manufacturing execution systems, like the Tempo manufacturing platform, provides real-time visibility across all facilities, enabling coordinated production planning and ensuring consistency, regardless of where the production occurs. The data analytics capabilities are transformative. These systems collect millions of data points from every batch. Machine learning algorithms can identify patterns humans would never see. Batches produced on Tuesdays have 3% higher yield when the outdoor temperature is below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Sounds crazy, but these correlations can lead to significant process improvement and cost savings. Technology transfer becomes smoother with comprehensive manufacturing execution system documentation. When you need to transfer production from your pilot facility to a commercial manufacturer or from one site to another, the manufacturing execution system contains the complete recipe, not just what to do, but all the nuances of how to do it successfully. It's like having a master chef's cookbook with every secret technique documented. Alright, let's talk about what's happening right now in the real world, not in some theoretical future, because while we've been discussing the science, cities around the world have been deploying these technologies and the results are starting to come in. New York City's Flacco's Law, which mandates rat contraceptive deployment starting April 2025, is the largest urban fertility control program ever attempted. They're not messing around here. We're talking about deploying thousands of bait stations across Manhattan, starting with 2 rat mitigation zones. The contraceptive pellets contain triptolide, that compound from the thunder god vine I mentioned earlier, formulated to be irresistible to rats. New York City spends millions annually across multiple agencies on traditional rat control with limited success. Early results from the pilot areas are promising. Shona Abreu, the city council member who championed the bill, reports that containerizing trash while deploying contraceptives has reduced rat complaints by 55%. That's not a marginal improvement. For New York City, that's transformational. The AI revolution in pesticide design is happening faster than anyone expected. Pestigen, that Chinese AI system I mentioned, has already designed a novel HPPD inhibitor called YH23768 that shows remarkable herbicidal potency. What's mind-blowing is that this molecule didn't exist anywhere in nature or chemical databases. An AI imagined it into existence, and it works. The same approach is being applied to rodenticides, with AI systems designing molecules that target rat-specific biological pathways. The digital pesticide database, launched in 2025, contains information on over 2,000 pesticides with nearly 200 attributes each. It's like having the Wikipedia of pest control, but verified and scientific. Researchers can query this database to find compounds with specific properties, predict environmental impacts, and even identify potential resistance mechanisms before they emerge in the field. Smart monitoring systems are already operational and showing incredible results. The anti-CMEX smart system, deployed in several U.S. cities, uses digital traps with sensors that immediately alert when there's activity. But here's the clever bit. It doesn't just say rat detected. The system analyzes movement patterns, estimates population density, and predicts where rats will move next. It's turned pest control from reactive to predictive. In one Manhattan building using the smart system, they prevented an infestation by detecting unusual activity patterns in the basement 2 weeks before any rats were seen by humans. The system noticed increased heat signatures and movement in specific patterns that indicated early colonization. By the time traditional methods would have identified the problem, they would have had hundreds of rats instead of having to deal with just a dozen. TrapView's pheromone trap cameras are revolutionizing agricultural pest management. These traps automatically photograph every insect they catch, use AI to identify the species, and upload the data to the cloud. Farmers get real-time alerts on their phones. Codling moth population spike detected in Orchard Block 7. They can make targeted interventions instead of blanket pesticide applications. The integration with precision agriculture is beautiful. Blue River Technology smart sprayers, which can reduce herbicide use by up to 90%, are now being adapted for rodenticide application. The system uses computer vision to identify rat burrows, droppings, and tracks, then precisely applies treatment only to where it's needed. It's like giving pest control laser vision. International deployments are showing us what's possible with different regulatory environments. Australia's CISRO has been conducting controlled field trials of immunocontraceptive viruses for mouse plague control. Singapore, with its typical efficiency, has deployed an integrated system combining smart sensors, AI prediction, and targeted contraceptive deployments. The key was treating it as a data problem first and a pest problem second. They know where every rat colony is, how it's moving, and what intervention will be most effective. Commercial adoption is accelerating. Pest control companies are rebranding themselves as population management specialists and hiring molecular biologists. Orkin has partnered with tech companies to deploy IoT monitoring systems. The industry is transforming from blue-collar exterminators to white-coat scientists. The unexpected successes are sometimes the most interesting. A program in Portland using contraceptives discovered that treated rat colonies became less aggressive and more predictable in their movements. The researchers theorized that without the stress of constant breeding and caring for young, the rats established more stable territories. This makes them easier to monitor and manage long-term. Field trials of RNA interference baits are showing promise, but also revealing challenges. In controlled settings, RNAi targeting essential genes achieve 95% mortality in treated populations. But in field conditions, the results are more variable. Environmental degradation of RNA, uneven bait consumption, and genetic variation in wild populations all reduce efficacy. Still, second-generation formulations with better stability are showing improved results. Let's look into the crystal ball and tell you what's coming down the pike. And trust me, some of this stuff makes our current technology look like we're still using stone tools. In the near term, we're talking 2025 to 2027. Expect to see explosive growth in AI-designed pesticides. The systems are getting scary good at predicting not just what molecules will work, but how pests will evolve resistance to them. Imagine pesticides that come with built-in resistance breakers, designed to prevent the very mutations that would make them ineffective. It's like playing evolutionary chess and thinking 10 moves ahead. New York City's contraceptive program results will be the shot heard round the world. If they achieve even a 50% reduction in rat populations, and early indicators suggest they might even exceed that, every major city will be scrambling to implement similar programs. I predict by 2027, at least 20 major US cities will have active fertility control programs, and the market for contraceptive baits will exceed $1 billion annually. The integration of pest management with smart city infrastructure will become standard. Cities will have real-time pest population dashboards, just like they have traffic monitoring systems. Building codes will require smart monitoring systems in new construction. Your smartphone will alert you if you're entering into an area with elevated rodent activity, just like it tells you about traffic jams. Medium term, 2028 to 2032, this is where things get really wild. The first controlled releases of self-spreading immunocontraceptive viruses will likely occur, probably in isolated environments like islands or contained agricultural areas. Imagine dropping a few dozen infected rats on an island and watching the entire population become infertile within a year without any additional intervention. Microbiome engineering will mature into a powerful tool. We'll have designer probiotics that can permanently alter rat populations. Feed them once, and their gut bacteria are replaced with engineered versions that produce contraceptives, behavior-modifying compounds, or even make them unable to digest certain foods. It's like installing new software into the rat's digestive system. CRISPR gene drives will move from laboratory to limited field trials. These are genetic modifications that spread through populations faster than normal inheritance. A gene drive for male-only offspring could theoretically eliminate a rat population in 10 to 15 generations. But the regulatory and ethical hurdles are immense. We're talking about releasing self-propagating genetic modifications into the wild. This convergence of technologies will create systems that we can barely imagine today. Picture this: satellite imagery identifying potential rat habitats, AI predicting population explosions months in advance, drone swarms deploying targeted interventions, and engineered viruses spreading tailored solutions through populations. It's precision pest control on a scale that would seem like magic to today's exterminators. Long term, 2033 and beyond, we're entering the realm of speculation, but based on current trajectories, some things seem likely. Universal pest vaccination might become a reality. Just as we vaccinate ourselves against diseases, we might vaccinate pest populations against reproduction. A single campaign could provide decades of population control. Synthetic biology will enable us to create entirely new organisms designed for pest control. Imagine engineered predators that only hunt specific pest diseases, then self-destruct after a certain number of generations. Or symbiotic organisms that live on rats and reduce their reproductive fitness without causing harm. We're talking about adding new players to the ecological game board. The regulatory framework will evolve dramatically as well. I predict we'll see international treaties governing the use of self-spreading biological controls, similar to how we regulate nuclear weapons. The potential for these technologies to cross borders means unilateral deployment could affect neighboring countries as well. We might see a biological test ban treaty limiting certain types of field trials. Climate change will force adaptation of all these technologies. As temperatures rise and ranges shift, pest populations will explode in new areas. The tropical rat species moving north will require different solutions than traditional temperate species. We'll need rapidly adaptable systems that can respond to changing pest dynamics in real time. The ethical framework around these technologies will mature. Right now, we're in the Wild West phase, where anything goes if it kills pests. But as these technologies become more powerful, questions around ecological intervention, species rights, and unintended consequences will become central. We might see the emergence of pest ethicists as a legitimate field. Personalized pest control could become a reality. Your home's pest management system will learn your specific situation, the local rat genetics, their behavioral patterns, their food preferences, and deploy customized solutions. It's like having a pest control system that gets smarter every day, eventually knowing your local rats better than they know themselves. The democratization of these technologies will be transformative. Right now, developing a new pesticide costs hundreds of millions of dollars. But as AI design tools become accessible and synthetic biology gets cheaper, we might see open source pest control solutions. Imagine downloading a DNA sequence, brewing it up in a community biolab, and solving your local pest problem with customized solutions. Space colonization? Yes, I'm going there. Will require these technologies as well. Any new place that we go, we tend to bring our pest along for the ride. Whether that's insects, bacteria, or yes, even rodents like rats, they seem to have an uncanny knack for sneaking aboard ships to make the journey with us. Any long-term space habitat will need to manage pest populations without toxic chemicals in closed environments. The pest control systems we're developing for Earth cities will be essential for Mars colonies. Though hopefully, we'll be smart enough not to intentionally bring rats to Mars in the first place. So here we are, at the end of our journey through the fascinating world where biotech meets pest control, and what a journey it's been. We've gone from rats living their best life in a Cupertino Whole Foods to viruses that spread infertility like a contagion, from AI designing new molecules that never existed before, to cities deploying birth control programs that would make any public health official jealous. Let's recap the key takeaways because this stuff matters more than you might think. First, the old ways of pest control are not just failing, they're actively making things worse. Every rat that we poison potentially kills the predators that would naturally control their populations. Every application of the same pesticide breeds resistance. We've been stuck in an evolutionary arms race where the rats, they're winning, and we're poisoning everything else in the process. Second, biotechnology offers fundamentally different approaches that work with biology rather than against it. Viral vectored immunocontraception doesn't kill rats, it stops them from reproducing. AI-designed pesticides target specific biological pathways that exist only in pest species. Smart monitoring systems predict problems before they happen. These aren't incremental improvements, they're paradigm shifts. Third, and this is crucial for those of us in bioprocessing and the manufacturing space, these technologies require the same sophisticated production systems that we use for pharmaceuticals. This isn't garage chemistry, it's precision biological manufacturing, requiring sophisticated manufacturing execution systems, quality control, and regulatory compliance. The convergence of pest control with pharmaceutical manufacturing creates enormous opportunities for companies that can bridge both worlds. The balance we must strike is delicate, but achievable. We need to protect human health and food security while respecting the environment and animal welfare. These biotech approaches offer that balance: effective pest control without ecological destruction, population management without cruelty, and sustainable solutions without perpetual warfare against nature. The industry implications are staggering. If you're in pest control, you need to be thinking about biology, not just chemistry. If you're in biotech, there's an $8 billion market waiting for innovation. If you're in manufacturing systems, these new products need sophisticated production capabilities. And if you're in city planning or public health, these new technologies could transform your approach to urban pest management. But here's my message of hope, and it's a big one. Now, for the first time in human history, we have the tools to humanely and permanently solve pest problems that have plagued us since we started farming. Imagine cities where rat infestations are historical curiosities, where food supplies are protected without poisoning ecosystems, where diseases spread by rodents become preventable rather than inevitable. This isn't just about rats and mice. The technologies we're developing for rodent control will be applicable to countless other pest problems. Mosquitoes spreading malaria, agricultural pests destroying crops, invasive species disrupting ecosystems. They're all potentially solvable with these approaches. We're not just changing pest control, we're changing our relationship with the natural world. The call to action here is clear and urgent. If you're a decision maker in a city dealing with pest problems, look into these new technologies. Don't wait for another Whole Foods style crisis. If you're in the pest control industry, start building partnerships with biotech companies and universities. The future belongs to those who embrace these technologies early on. For investors and entrepreneurs, this space is ripe for disruption. The company that creates the first truly effective self-spreading immunocontraceptive virus will revolutionize the entire industry. The AI systems that can design perfect pesticides on demand will be worth billions. The integrated smart city pest management platform will become essential infrastructure. For regulators and policymakers, we need frameworks that enable innovation while ensuring safety. The current regulatory system was designed for chemical pesticides, not biological controls. We need adaptive regulations that can keep pace with rapidly evolving technology while protecting public and environmental health. For scientists and researchers, the challenges remaining are immense and exciting. How do we ensure species specificity in gene drives? Can we create reversible modifications in case of unintended consequences? How do we predict and prevent ecological disruptions? These questions need the brightest minds working on them. And for everyone else, for the average person living in a city or town dealing with pest problems, be aware that changes are coming. Support politicians and policies that embrace these humane and significantly more effective solutions. Question the old ways of doing things and demand better than endless poisonings and killing. The war between humans and rats has raged for millennia. We've tried everything: cats, dogs, poisons, traps, and even music. Look up the Pied Piper if you don't believe me. We've won battles, but never the war. Now for the first time, we have weapons that can end this conflict, not through annihilation, but through biological diplomacy. We're not trying to eliminate rats from the earth. They're remarkable creatures that play important ecological roles. We're trying to find a balance where they exist without threatening human health and food security. These biotech approaches offer that balance. They're humane, precise, and sustainable in ways that previous solutions never were. The rats may have won battles for centuries, adapting to every poison we threw at them, learning to avoid our traps, breeding faster than we could kill them. But with biotechnology, we're not fighting the same war anymore. We're changing the rules of engagement, using intelligence instead of force, prevention instead of reaction, and biology instead of brute chemistry. This is the future of pest control, not a future of death and poison, but one of clever science and biological innovation. A future where pest management is precise, predictable, and permanent. Where cities are cleaner, food is safer, and ecosystems are healthier. Where we finally, after thousands of years, achieve a sustainable truce in humanity's oldest war. So yes, we're putting rats on birth control, we're engineering viruses to spread infertility, and we're using artificial intelligence to design molecules that evolution never imagined. And you know what? It's about time. Because if we can use the same technologies that gave us COVID vaccines and CRISPR gene editing to solve our rat problems, then maybe, just maybe, we're getting smart enough to deserve this planet that we inhabit. The revolution in pest control isn't coming. It's already here. It's happening in laboratories and cities around the world. It's in the code being written by AI systems and viruses being engineered by scientists. It's in the smart traps sending data to the cloud and the contraceptive pellets being consumed by unsuspecting rats. This is our moment to transform an ancient problem with modern solutions, to show that human ingenuity can solve problems without destroying everything else in its path. To prove that technology, wisely applied, can create a better world for humans and animals alike. Keep questioning, keep innovating, and remember, sometimes the best way to win a war is to stop fighting it the same old way. In an industry where precision and compliance are paramount, Apprentice's Tempo platform offers a cutting-edge manufacturing execution system solution. It's cloud-based, mobile-first, operator-centric, with the most intuitive UI in the industry, making it perfect for today's dynamic pharmaceutical manufacturing environments and for the production of the world's most complex drug products. Whether you're working on groundbreaking cell and gene therapies, biologics, or small molecules, Tempo provides a fully validated MES system that's both powerful and easy to use. It streamlines your processes, ensures compliance, and adapts to your specific manufacturing needs. So get off of paper batch records and discover how Apprentice's Tempo Manufacturing Cloud can transform your operations by visiting us at apprentice.io. Attention industry professionals, revolutionize your manufacturing process with the Apprentice Tempo Manufacturing Cloud, a manufacturing execution system built to streamline your operations, boost efficiency, and ensure compliance all in one powerful platform. Experience the future of manufacturing with our free 30-day trial. Scan the QR code on your screen now to unlock a world of innovation. Don't just keep pace, set the tempo as an industry leader with Apprentice. That's all for Apprentice.io's Industry Insights. I'm Frank Maggiore. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for notifications when new episodes drop. Please comment on if you have any additional topics you would like for me to cover in this space, and we'll see you next week for more Industry Insights.